Okay, so over 260,000 innocent civilians were killed. Among them were children and infants. More than 1 million people were injured. This is the outcome of the atomic bombs that were dropped in the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. At the same time, nuclear can be used as our energy source. As of today, roughly 20% of our electricity is coming from nuclear power plants. So nuclear power is not necessarily evil. Nuclear power is a crucial element in human life, and therefore it must be managed with utmost care. Without nuclear power plants, our nation's electricity supply would face severe disruption. However, nuclear power can also be misused, leading to catastrophic consequences. The Bible highlights the heart as the most essential aspect of our lives, emphasizing that it is the source of life itself. Our thoughts and intentions are expressed through our words. Our spoken words, like a nuclear power, it holds immense potential for good, progress, connection, inspiration, faith, and hope. Just like this powerful energy source, they can also cause harm, division, hurt, destruction, temptation, and sin. I want you to visualize a Navy aircraft carrier. Those big ships that carries like a lot of airplane. It is about 1,000 feet long and 250 feet wide. This is about little less than 4 football field. At this giant vessel is being steered by small blade at the bottom of the ship at the captain's command. Even though they are so large and are driven by strong winds and engine, they are guided by very small rudder wherever the will of the captain directs. Today's passage expresses that our spoken words are important because they have the ability to shape the entire direction of our lives. Since this is the first time we are studying the book of Numbers, let us go over some background. The book of Numbers continues the story of Israel after the exodus from slavery in Egypt. God brought them into Mountain Sinai and entered into a covenant with them. The story of this book focuses on the Israelites' journey to set out from the desert of Sinai to enter into the promised land of Canaan. They traveled from place to place until they came to rest and encamped in the desert of Paran, about halfway to the promised land. So they're almost there. Promised land, you can see it. It's a little over the mountain. Maybe it's a flat ground. Almost there. Yet from there, the people quickly begin complaining. They complain about their hardship in the hearing of the Lord. We can hear him. Why does have to Moses always to go? Speak to us directly. They complain about the food. They even talked about how great the life in Egypt was, all the food they could eat, cucumbers. They complained about Moses' leadership. They complained about the land that they're about to go in. They complained about not having no water. Complained about having no bread and no meat, remember? We want meat. As I'm speaking to you, you can realize that there is contrast between the title of this sermon, the Become Lips of Faith, and the attitudes that the Israelites had towards our God through their spoken word. Today our sermon title is Become Lips of Faith. It means to let your spoken words be filled with your faith. Our speech, our language, is the first window through which others glimpse our faith, our belief, and our convictions. If you claim to be a Christian, but everything comes out of your mouth is not after God's image and character, there will be some issue. Living by faith isn't just about what we know intellectually, but it's about how we live it out daily. Many people come to church and say, I know enough about Bible. I believe in you. You come to church long enough, you know the synopsis of Bible. Doesn't mean you have an intimate relationship with God. Doesn't mean you are living out life of Christ in your daily life. It's about confessing truthfully to God and staying true to our word, things we speak. Our faith should permeate not just our thoughts, but our entire existence. Today's passage reaffirms the profound influence our language has on every aspect of our lives. That small thing right here. The Bible teaches us that guarding our hearts is paramount in our lives. As we read in Proverbs 4:23, it emphasizes that life itself flows from the condition of our hearts. Your life, everything you do, everything you say, it flows from the condition of your hearts. Our hearts, in turn, find the expression through our words. Everything here is expressed through our words, and your words is a manifest reaction. Consider the analogy of a mighty ship, like aircraft carrier, being steered by small rudder, controlled by the skillful hands of captain, as we mentioned earlier. This imagery underscores the immense power of our words. James reminds us of the significance and impact of our word we speak. The words shape our relationship, our decision, and ultimately our direction of life as well. First point, let us trust and rely on God and His promises rather than on circumstances. Today's passage unfolds the story of the Israelites as they arrived at the entrance of the land of Canaan. Moses sent 12 spies from each of the 12 tribes to investigate and observe the land of Canaan. This is what the military does before attacking the enemy, right? We call it reconnaissance. The army or marine will send a small number of soldiers to gather information about the enemy forces. How much resources they have, what's their activities, are they in defensive position, are they about to attack us, how many soldiers they have, what kind of weapons they carry, do they have a tank, do they have artillery, do they have airplane? This is important because you must know where your enemy stands, and also you have to know where we stand before attacking. You don't want to attack an enemy that is much stronger than you. So sending 12 spies into an enemy territory is very natural. Have you guys ever took a trip to overseas? Yeah, never? Never? No? Okay. Well, even if you go trip to the place that we're not familiar with, we research about the place to make sure we don't end up in the wrong side of the town. So research is important. These 12 spies returned with 2 pieces of information. One was that the land is truly flowed with milk and honey. The other was that according to 10 of the 12 spies, that it seemed impossible for them to conquer. They reported, the people, they are strong, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there, which are giants. These statements are factual observation. This is a fact. This is a report. There is nothing wrong about this. However, they add their own interpretation to it. Can we look at the numbers for chapter 13 to verse 33? Yeah? We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. This is not fact. This is their own interpretation. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. This self-assessment is not humility. Brother and sister, there is a clear distinction between being humble and having no confidence. Let me tell you something. Being humble means think of yourself less, not think of yourself. I guess it's a little wordy, huh? Not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. It's two different things. At the same time, the entire Israel assembly who heard the report, they start to grumble against Moses and express their intense resentment towards God's plan and will. Let us read verse 3 and 4 of chapter 14. Why is the Lord bringing us to this land only to let us fall by the sword? Our wives and children will be taken as plunder. Wouldn't it be better for us to go back to Egypt? And they said to each other, we should choose a leader and go back to Egypt. On the other hand, we see the same situation, but with a different opinion from the other two spies, Caleb and Joshua. The reason for this division is given Numbers 14:8. Can we read together? If the Lord is pleased with us, He will lead us into the land, a land flowing with the milk and honey, and will give it to us. What is the difference between 10 spies and these Israelites who are being skeptical and the two spies, Caleb and Joshua? 10 spies and the Israelites focus only on the present circumstances. They only focus on their situation, while the two spies, Caleb and Joshua, look up to God and His promises. When we living in this world, when we conquering our Canaan in this world, you can either choose to focus on your circumstances and your situation and your shortcomings, or you can look up to God and trust in His promise. Confession of faith means looking at God's promise rather than the situation and circumstances. Our God keeps His promises. He keeps His covenant. Speaking is an outward expression of our inner faith. It gives voice to our thoughts and feelings. You know, those people always saying, I don't know, I don't care. You know, they're not saying this out of just habit. They're expressing their thoughts and feelings. Similar to how painting expresses a visual image, right? I heard that painters express through painting. Speaking creates a picture with words. When we express our mistrust and express our complaint, it is not just a matter of habit, it is a matter of whether or not we acknowledge God in our lives. Complaining, grumbling expresses our relationship with God. Second point, God is listening to every word that comes out of our mouth. The story of Exodus chapter 2 highlights God's attentive nature. In the midst of Israelites suffering in Egypt, God heard their cries and called Moses to deliver them. Yet, even before Moses' call, God was already present with Israelites. Can we read the verses together? Chapter 2, verse 23 and 25. During those many days, the king of Egypt died, and the people of Israel groaned because of their slavery and cried out for help. Their cry for rescue from slavery came up to God, and God heard their groaning, and God remembered His covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and Jacob. God saw the people of Israel, and God knew. The nature of God is that He's attentive. If we are to summarize the entire Bible in one sentence, it would be about God's intimate knowledge of us. You know, sometimes we have this misconception of who God is. God knows everything, right? God knows everything about us. And sometimes we imagine him as someone who are out there in distance, right? Just observing with his telescope, constantly monitoring our actions like a surveillance camera. Muslim believes that way. That's their definition of God, who are very distant. They don't even know they're saved or not. When I talk to Muslims, that's like, it's the will of Allah in the end. However, the Bible emphasizes the personal aspect of God's understanding, a personal, intimate God who are very attentive. I'm going to read you Psalm 139, which beautifully portrays this intimacy. Please listen carefully. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. It portrays intimate God. It describes God as the creator, not some distant creator, but a creator who formed us in our mother's womb, intimately aware of every detail of our being. Whether we find ourselves in the highs and the lows of life, the Lord remains by our side. He is faithful. Therefore, we can take a comfort in the assurance that God not only knows us, but also listens to our every word and thoughts. Whether we are complaining or being grateful, God is always listening. That leads to the third point. Our lives are shaped by our spoken words. We hear things about how our words can empower others and hurt others, yes, but the spoken word can shape your life, the direction of life you're going. Do you guys drive? Anyone drive here? Let me tell you, the first time I learned drive, I went to freeway by myself, 5 north. Do you know what happened to me? I didn't know how to exit. It was scary, right? I was keep going. I was driving for like 2 hours. I'm like, at this rate, I'm going to Canada. I got to exit somehow. That's how freeway is designed, right? Once you're in, it will take you to the destination. Just as a person who enters the highway eventually reaches the destination, so too does a person. Lives are shaped by words they speak. The things you say will shape your life. Your guide to the direction. If you're a naysayer, complaints and grumbling, okay, that's not you. But if you look at those people in my life, last 20, 30 years, they're still complaining, grumbling, and their life is still where they chose to be. They end up where their spoken words lead them. Their spoken words decide their destiny. This is precisely what God said to the Israelites. Their lives would be shaped according to the words they spoke. We're going to read the number 1428. Ready? Begin. As surely as I live, declares the Lord, I will do to you the very thing I heard you say. I'm not talking about the self-fulfilling prophecy here, that you become what you say. Things we say is express our inner thoughts, and it express what kind of a relationship we have with Jesus Christ. If you're continuously grumbling and complaining, you kind of have to have time out and start to evaluate yourself. Where am I in my life with Jesus Christ? I'm always complaining, grumbling, rather than being grateful. It's not just a single spoken word of 10 spies and Israelites who doubt their possibility of conquering Canaan. However, it was rather an expression of doubting God within them, and they just simply express with their mouth. And because their values are embedded in their words, they end up living life according to those values and portray themselves as grasshoppers compared to the Anakites, who are the descendants of giants. Our words reflects our character People speak what they think, what they believe, also act according to what they speak. And eventually, the consequence of their actions, like harvesting bad fruits. Speaking is to declare about the direction of one's life. Some carry complaints on their lips and shape their reality. Others live with words of gratitude, and they will eventually be fulfilled. 12 spies, they went out to investigate the land of Canaan, but 10 spies came back with the negative reports. The report itself was factual, was neutral, but how they portrayed themselves was negative. They focused on circumstances rather than relying on God's promises and expresses in their spoken words. They doubt God and His promises, and this belief and thoughts were expressed through their spoken words, and the spoken words shaped their reality. Prior to this event, entire Israelites grumbled against Moses and God and demanded a new leader, a new God, so they could go back to the slavery. On the other hand, Caleb and Joshua believed in God and His promises and expressed their faith in spoken words, even to odds against the Israelites. Life in this earth, the odds will be against you unless you are born in, multi-millionaire or billionaire family, or smarter students, or better looking people. That's how this world operates. But I want you to focus on God's promises rather than the circumstances. And you have to try and practice to express your thoughts in spoken language, to be more grateful, to appreciate what we have, what God has done for us. May our words be a reflection of our gratitude for God's presence in our lives, our trust in Him and His promises. May our lives be built upon the promise of His love for us rather than our disbelief and complaint against God. Let's pray.